Well, good Sunday morning to you. The heat is back here, and I've got a couple of video ideas that I want to work on. I'd hoped to share one this weekend, but it's just so darn hot outside, and those video ideas, they'll keep for another time. So to avoid going out in the heat, I've got a couple of projects at home that I need to work on. I still have to keep moving on my projects to get ready for my show in October, but in the meantime, last year I had a friend come to me with a project. He and his wife were headed to Burning Man for the first time, and he came to me, we joke about it now, he kind of last minute, he gave me about 24 hours to throw everything together, so I madly worked for about 14 hours one day, and I got his costume ready and finished, and he had a blast with it. We found that there were a couple of things that could make the costume work better, and because he and his wife are going back to Burning Man this year, he had asked me to make some modifications, and it's really a simple modification. I was moving so quickly just to get the piece assembled and stitched and riveted and all the hardware put together that I didn't get around to putting keeper loops on the straps, the little loop like in your belt, just past the buckle that kind of keeps the extra belt from flapping all over the place. And his costume has about 22 straps that need keeper loops. I had tried to stay faithful to the idea that I could use metal for these keeper loops to match the buckles for this piece, and my local Tandy shop, they just weren't stocked to have that many of the size I needed. So what we agreed to do, my friend who has a maker shop, he cut all the pieces for his costume himself. He did all the cutting on his laser, and then he handed the pieces off to me to just have them stitched and put together. So he had the presence of mind, he had some scrap material left over, and he cut keeper loops for me. And I'm going to use those pieces, I'm going to punch them and stitch them, I'm going to do a little bit of disassembly on his pieces to get these loops on, and then I'm going to rivet everything back together and send him on his way. I believe he's leaving next Saturday. So I need to get this out of the way, and I also need to get some wallets started. So I did a leather video not long ago. This is another one, and I can't promise you there won't be more. But if you want to spend some time with me and check out what I'm doing, feel free to follow along. Grab yourself a cup of coffee, and let's do this. Over the years, I have spent countless hours watching creators on YouTube who are solely leather crafters and are on YouTube solely for sharing their craft and how they do their work. I'm not on that level. I'm an advanced hobbyist at best, but I thought it would be an interesting time to just talk some basics about some of the tools that I use. I have 3 different kinds of punches that I use for stitching, and it all depends on how easily the pieces fit together, what I'm trying to achieve, and the final look of the stitch. Each one of these tools produces a different shape of a puncture through the material. This is a round punch. This is the only one of my punches that actually removes material. It delivers a circular hole, and you space them regularly, and that's how you get your stitch pattern. The stitch tends to be a pretty straight line stitch. If you can see that here along that stitch line. Struggling with my focus here. But that's the stitch line that this particular punch delivers. These other 2 punches, this is a diamond punch, and this is a French pricking iron, which is actually much more fine than the diamond punch. These are punches that don't remove material. They kind of separate the fibers of the leather to allow the needle to penetrate. And with those irons, you get a little bit of a slant to the stitch. So depending on the final product and the final effect you're looking for, this is one of my card holders, and you can kind of see the angled holes and how the stitches tend to not run in a straight line, but are actually appear to be kind of stacked on one another, and it produces this really nice zigzaggy pattern that I really find appealing for my smaller goods. So when it comes to wallets and card holders, I'm always using the French pricking iron. Longer straps, I tend to use the diamond punches and the pricking iron. The big reason I like using the diamond punches is because I have the diamond punches in much longer lengths. This is a 14, this is a 20. So with 1 or 2 whacks of the mallet, I can get 20 holes punched at one time. There are multiple punches available that have the round punch in them. I don't have any in my arsenal, but if that's the look you're after, those are the tools you need. I much prefer the look of the stitch that these punches afford. So these make wallet work go a lot faster. The hardest part about a project like this is the repetition. May have to move the incense here. So the hardest part about this project, as simple as it may seem, is the repetition. There are a lot of these little pieces that need to be folded around and stitched so they make a loop. And rather than set up a couple of needles and a piece of thread and do one, and then set that one aside and grab 2 more needles. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set up 20 needles with thread. I'm going to get those set up first, so when I start stitching, I can just keep moving and I can come back and trim the excess thread later. So I've got all my needles threaded, and now I'm going to start stitching these suckers together, and I think I'll go ahead and see one through to completion for the sake of the video. I won't put you through watching me make all of these suckers, but it's going to take a hot minute to do this. I'm not going to get done with all of this today. But let's stitch one of these up and see what it looks like, and then we'll install it on Don's piece and see how he did with sizing his loops. Well, while it's a repair job and I want to do, the best job I can for my friend, the good news is that I don't have to be as particular about all of the details because this is essentially a costume. It's going to go out to Burning Man and it's going to get beat up in the desert for a week. You can kind of see some of the powder that got built up from last year. He's wearing the same costume again. You can kind of see some of that built up there in the stitching. Or maybe you can't because I can't get the camera to focus. So I'm going to spend the rest of the day putting some of these loops together. I really appreciate you hanging out with me this morning. I hope your Sunday is super awesome, and I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Have a great week. See ya.